Want to expand the reach of your content? Start a podcast. Feature industry experts on your show and leverage the influence and reach of your guests to grow your brand. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I am your host for today's episode, Nikki Ivy with Sweetfish Media. Guys, I've got with me today Sam Feldotto, who is head of sales and growth at SalesReply. Sam, how you doing today?
Nikki, I'm good. It's great meeting you.
I love it. I love an enthusiastic response to that question because I know sometimes it could go either way. So glad to hear that you're doing well. Guys, Sam is going to be talking to us today about a growth hack that's really helped the folks at SalesReply out these days, and that is using LinkedIn employee change to drive attention. And I cannot wait to hear those insights, Sam. But before we get into all of that, I would love it if you would just give us all a little bit of background on yourself and what you and the folks at SalesReply have been up to these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, I'm the head of sales and growth here at SalesReply. We just went through a rebrand from Pipestry over to SalesReply. A lot of companies had heard of Pipestry previously, but we had built a new platform that we really just wanted to align everything on both sides of the business. So we made the decision to make that rebrand over to SalesReply. So now we're a mix between a B2B sales development agency and technology platform with the end goal of allowing companies to scale rapidly without hiring additional reps or investing in additional technologies on the sales development front. So our goal is really getting meetings for clients and helping them grow without increasing their headcount.
Right, which is what we all want. So I'm glad that you guys are seeing some success, and thanks for letting us know exactly what it is that you guys are doing for folks out there. It sounds like it's important work. And one of the ways that you guys are advancing that important work is using LinkedIn employee change to drive attention. And so first, I'd like for you to give us a little bit more context around what you guys went through with the rebrand and why that was an opportunity to apply this growth hack before we get into sort of what exactly that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we first came out with the product, we named it SalesReply, and we loved the name. We really liked the idea and how it lined up with our market and what we were trying to achieve. But part of the problem when you're going through a rebrand is you quickly come to this dead stop where nobody knows who SalesReply is. They may have heard of Pipestry before. And so you have to figure out ways that you can really get yourself in front of your audience and not let there be a dip. Because ultimately, when you're a small business, especially when you're bootstrapped like we are, downtimes can be hard times, and we're not trying to, see a long lasting impact from that. And so, one of the ideas that we came up with on the LinkedIn front was, and I kind of came up with this, I don't know, it was probably about 6 months ago or so. I was making some adjustments to my title on LinkedIn, and I forgot to basically throttle it off so that it wouldn't send an update to my whole network. And so when I made a small adjustment to my title at the company, it pushed out an update to every single person in my network. And, within a couple of hours, I had hundreds of views on my profile. I had a bunch of messages from people. I had people commenting on the job change, and I hadn't even changed jobs. I just made a slight adjustment to the title. And I was like, well, this is, for what I did here, this was kind of annoying. But if this could be utilized in a different way, this could get me in front of a pretty large audience in a very short amount of time, which on LinkedIn is, everyone's striving to do that. It's hard to get in front of your audience with the way that they're always changing their algorithm around. You can post content, but it's probably not going to get in front of a huge portion of your network. By doing this, though, I figured out I could get in front of a lot larger part of my network. And, they would get notifications on their phone for it. It would pop up on their timeline. When people comment or like it, that would pop up on other people's timeline. So it seemed like a really good opportunity for our entire team to use this idea in order to drive, attention to the brand itself.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've done that where, it pushes out the update, and then it was one of the most engaged with updates in my history on LinkedIn. One of my job changes. So those in and of themselves tend to get engagement. And then when you're talking about sort of falling into that accidentally with the rebrand, how smart of you to decide this is something we could capitalize on. There's something to this. One of the other positive things that you talked about this sort of spilling into with respect to the rebrand is the opportunity that gives to align sales and marketing. Talk about that for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Sales and marketing tend to be on opposite sides of the fence a lot of times, but both departments have a lot of valuable input. And so when we went through this rebrand, I'm the head of sales. Our CEO runs a lot of the marketing. And so we got together and put together a couple of documents, just really looking at the messaging and positioning of the company based on, what he thought would be great positioning from, from being the CEO as well, doing all of our marketing, but also from my end, having these conversations day in and day out with prospects, understanding what's important to the market and, how our value prop can really play a part in this. And then, coming together and working super cohesively so that we can line up, what the marketing initiatives are going to be with messaging and, positioning from the sales side and get it so, we're both on the same topic here and we're both really well aligned with, what our direction is going to be moving forward, without leaving one or the other department out, and because there's definitely super valuable input from both sides.
Yeah, particularly with the fact that the more, just by volume, right? The more people that you have involved and on board, especially when we're talking about how to use that on LinkedIn, where traditionally it is marketers who are doing that push and sort of carrying that banner. And when you involve sales teams in that, I think there is an opportunity there to reach even more people and have a shot at least having even more engaging conversations with customers and prospects. So I think, that's
exactly.
really a smart way to think about it.
And even just in that conversation, that was when, we made the push for our team where we were going to make that, update on LinkedIn. We weren't a new company. Pipistry is still on my LinkedIn right now, as it is with every one of our other employees. So we had the option, we can either change the company name or we can create a whole new position on everybody's LinkedIn, put, brand new messaging that lines up with what marketing and sales have been talking about, make sure everybody's LinkedIn is updated, has the correct summary and the correct branding and messaging on it. And then when you make that update, it gets pushed out to the network. And so all of that work that, sales and marketing has put in all of a sudden has an audience that it wouldn't have had before, by putting a new company and a new title on there.
Imagine it, a spreadsheet filled with rows and rows of your sales enablement assets. You've devoted 2 years to organizing this masterpiece, only for it to stop making sense. This was Chad Trabuco's reality. As the head of sales enablement at Glint, a LinkedIn company, he's responsible for instilling confidence in his sales reps and arming them with the information they need to do their jobs. However, when his glorious spreadsheet became too complex, he realized he needed a new system.
That's when Chad turned to Guru. With Guru, the knowledge you need to do your job finds you. Between Guru's web interface, Slack integration, mobile app, and browser extension, teams can easily search for verified knowledge without leaving their workflow. No more siloed or staled information. Guru acts as your single source of truth. For Chad, this meant Glint sales reps were left feeling more confident doing their jobs. See why leading companies like Glint, Shopify, Spotify, Slack, and more are using Guru for their knowledge management needs. Visit b2bgrowth.getguru.com to start your 30-day free trial and discover how knowledge management can empower your revenue teams.
What I'm interested in now is what happens with content? What happens with, collateral and case studies that you guys put work into for the old name, the old brand? And what does that need to look like moving forward? And then does that need to look the same for the marketing team and the sales team, for individual contributors and leadership? How does that all play out?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer that going through a rebrand is the perfect time to revamp everything. Not just putting a different logo on it and moving it across, but really, looking at the actual collateral, the content, the case studies that your company has, and seeing, is this the best that we can do? And if it's not, this is a great time to make that update. Because now people are going to be seeing a new company. We need to put our best foot forward with them. We can't rely on name recognition from our old company. And so going through and looking at that content and really making sure that it's not just being updated to reflect the rebrand, but it's also being updated to reflect kind of this change in organization and this new direction and this this growth within the company. If your content and your collateral, the case studies, they're not growing, they're just getting a new logo on them. What's really the point in it to begin with?
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. So I like the way that that's prioritized in the way that you talk about that, because it's important. Another thing that, we didn't talk about it too much in our, offline conversation as far as what, some of the challenges are to rebranding, but I want to make sure we get to it. How important is it to keep in mind why you're doing the rebrand and to communicate that throughout the organization when you're going through something like this?
Yeah. And the rebrands, some companies take it, and I've seen it happen where they just don't like their name and they want to change it. That wasn't the case for us because we had created a whole different platform and a whole different side of the business. And we really wanted to align that. But looking at the strategy changes in the business as a whole and making sure that the rebrand actually plays a part in your future growth as a business is a really important piece of the rebrand. It's not just getting a new name. It should be getting a fresh chapter within your industry and being able to really put forward what's important to you now and what's going to be important to you in the future, and make sure that the branding aligns with that. It's not just a new logo, it's a new business, and you should treat it that way.
Perfect. No, that's exactly it. That's a really concise way of helping people, I think, understand the mindset they need to have going into this, because it's really challenging. One of the specific challenges that you did mention was SEO. And it's a concern I would have if I were on a team going through a rebrand, right? Because you sort of lose all the things that you built with the old, optimization for the old brand. And you're kind of starting from scratch, it would seem. Talk a little bit about what that experience was like.
Yeah. So, that's always from a marketing side and also from a sales side, because you always do want to have those inbound leads coming in. Mm-hmm. You don't want to lose that SEO. And by creating a new brand, you're going to lose it inherently for a little while. So, staying ahead of it is super important. Investing heavily in SEO right when you make that rebrand, or even ahead of time, can be very, very valuable to you in the long run. For example, we built up our website prior to the rebrand. We didn't release it out to anybody, but we were actively going out and getting it listed on sites, putting new content on it, really making sure the messaging was well aligned. And then, we went and hired a company to help us with our SEO on that front too, because, admittedly, we're not, industry experts on SEO. We do sales development. We're not working on SEO. So, but for us, it was important to make that investment because that downtime can be crucial. And, as I said, as a bootstrap company, we don't have time for, big drops in engagement, big drops in inbound. So making that investment up front and making sure you're doing everything properly leading up to the rebrand to make sure that your SEO is as good as you can possibly get it is going to pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah. I just really love the way that you laid this out. It's a really good beginning point as far as, again, the mindset you need to have going into a rebrand, if you're considering this, the way that you've talked about it might help some folks figure out whether or not that's the necessary step for them. So thanks for laying that out for us. And now that I've successfully picked your brain, Sam, it is time for you to tell us what you're putting in it. So talk to us about a learning resource that you have engaged with here recently that is informing your approach, that's just got you excited these days.
Yeah. From a learning perspective, I've been reading a lot of books and listening to a lot of podcasts. I've actually listened to quite a few of yours recently. But one thing that I think is a little different than a lot of people you probably have talked to is I've actually been going out and building a lot of content for the company. And in that process, I've been trying to talk to a lot of different leaders, within our space, even going to some of our competitors and getting them engaged and having them contribute to this content that we're putting together. And in that process, I've been able to get a lot of different viewpoints on sales development. It's really easy to fall into your own little echo chamber when everything you're talking is within the company. And so getting those outside perspectives, talking to even some competitors and getting them involved and picking their brains on stuff, in our industry, I know a lot of people say well, why would you talk to your competitor? Well, at the end of the day, there's a lot of companies that do what we do. So, understanding how companies are doing things differently it can really value you as a company and your growth and what you're doing. And also just as an individual, understanding, what other thought leaders in the industry are doing and, being able to pick up on that and learn, constantly from, not just reading books and listening to podcasts, but also, truly talking to people that are in the trenches day in and day out in your industry.
I absolutely love that answer. And I bet you can guess why. You kind of just described what I do for a living. And so I know you're so right. I believe it. People are resources, even people who are competitive in your space, because like you said, those are folks that you can really learn from. If I go into anything assuming I don't have anything to learn from anybody who's trying to do the same thing as me, I've already lost. So I love that answer. Thank you so much for that. And I know that everybody listening, just like me, has become a fast fan of yours, and they're going to want to know how to keep up with you. So tell us, Sam, how folks can connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, the best place will probably be LinkedIn. Just find me on LinkedIn. It's LinkedIn/Sam Feldotto. And that spelling is F as in Fox, ELDOTTO. A little hard to spell. A little Italian there. Other than that, though, they can, anyone who wants to reach out and, learn a little bit more too, can go to SalesReply.com. If you book a time on there, I will be the one to talk with you. So, easy way to get in touch.
Sweet. Thank you so much. There's a lot of other, I think, things we can learn from your experience with, this rebrand, and a lot of other questions that folks might have. So all that means is that we'll have to have you on again. But until then, Sam, thanks again for sharing what you've shared today. And, just good luck with everything that you guys are doing right now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Nikki. It was great talking to you.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.